But kind of where we start to see kind of modern day anti-Semitism and where it came from, kind of came about around the dawn of Christianity. And so, around the time when Roman emperors started to convert to Christianity, they saw the Jewish people as a threat to their hegemonic rule, because the Jews historically, not just in that time, but also historically, have been a very devout group that is not willing to convert and not willing to change. And because of that, whether it's Jews or really anybody who's kind of a marginalized group in whatever society, they're a threat to hegemonic rule. So before anything else, that's where it started. Jews being a threat to the new Christian rulers of the Roman Catholic Empire. So now I'll just kind of run down some bullet points. So around after that, laws began being passed, and this is the Byzantine Empire. So laws began being passed, things like Jews can't marry Christians. Jews can't hold positions in government. And this was happening around like 399, 439 AD. In 531 AD, Jews could not appear as witnesses against Christians in court. So you can see the issue with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to continue on what you were saying, when when you look at modern day history and how the world is set up now, the big push for the Roman Catholics to go and spread Christianity was one of the big pushes for them even sailing west, to go and spread the word of Christ. And for the ones that did not want to hear that, they were a threat. Yeah. And the Jews were so tight, and even today, such a tight-knit community that, anything that wasn't understood by the Christians was a threat. When they went in, when they went to Africa, and anything that they didn't understand, it was black magic or it was the devil. Anything they're doing, their goal was to push their ideology and their beliefs onto others, and anybody that did not, for the lack of term, cave into what their belief system was a threat. And the Jews were such a tight-knit community that, that's where the headbutting even began with, to even continue what you were saying.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And that kind of is the crux of the issue that the world has had with the Jewish community, is that, as you said, they're very together and they do their own thing. You know what I mean? And that's very powerful. And so, again, like to go on a bit more, again, like you start to see laws implemented that basically don't allow Jews to be effective in society. But one thing I learned is really interesting, kind of where the trope of them being greedy and stuff came from. So a little bit before that, though, medieval society, like we know that while Hitler was in power, Jews were forced into ghettos, but Jews have been being forced into ghettos long before that. So again,
yes. And people want to make Hitler the end all be all, and there's a long history even way before that, even in this country. But I'm gonna let you continue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So again, like pretty much a lot of what you see, it's the same thing. They don't want to convert. Basically, they don't want to convert to Christianity. So then we keep going. The Catholic Church, because we remember, in medieval times, the Catholic Church basically was the state. Kings and queens, they were figureheads. The popes, they ran the show.
Yes.
What I'm saying? So
kings and queens had the regional power. If you wanted international power, you had to go to the Catholic Church. You had to go to the Pope. Even when we talked the transatlantic slave trade, Christopher Columbus, they had to get the okay from the Catholic Church to even set out on their adventures. So kings and queens were figureheads. The church was the state. The church was the end all be all.
And they made sure that because they secured land, they secured resources, they secured money. You know what I'm saying? So even today, the Bank of the Vatican is it's completely unregulated. You know what I'm saying? Like the Vatican is its own country. So it's the Catholic Church's power still remains, even though people's kind of general like fundamental belief in religion is swaying over time. So the Catholic Church, they banned Jews from owning land so that they couldn't build wealth from property. Now, here's where the trope of Jews being greedy and all about money comes into play. So Jews were banned from owning land so they couldn't build wealth that way. But Christians actually were banned from loaning money for profit, because pretty much all throughout time, loaning money has kind of been seen as a sleazy business. But because Christians were barred from loaning money, Jews weren't, but Jews were barred from owning land. So oftentimes Jews, that's how they were able to make money at all. That's how they were able to profit. They were some of the only people who were able to get into money loaning businesses. And so that's where that trope came from. So over time,
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know the origin of it.
But it makes perfect sense in terms of how it gets steeped into culture, because, you know, certain people are banned from loaning money and all you got is the Jews. So, you know, you can start to see how those racist tropes come up. You know, the Jews, they're always tightly knit. They live in their own communities. They don't really mingle with others as much. They don't want to convert, and they seem to be the only money lenders. So, you know, that's a lot of where that trope came from. And on top of that, you know, Jews have been blamed historically for all types of stuff. Actually, as well, they got the finger pointed at them during the Black Plague for black magic, and actually them having to live in ghettos was some of why Jews didn't die as much from the bubonic plague as the rest of the group. So again, back in those times, they were like, how are these, you know, evil Jews not dying from the Black Plague? It must be black magic.
But it must be. It must be something in their DNA.
Yeah, it must be something evil, but really it was a result of their culture, as well as y'all forced them to be away from the rest of society. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. And then we got, you know, obviously Christian rulers using Jewish money to build things. And then Martin Luther, and this is interesting because I went to Lutheran schools. I went to several Lutheran schools. And Martin Luther, who was, you know, credited for starting the Protestant Reformation, the creator of the Lutheran strain of Christianity, kind of those first steps away from the very strict domineering Catholic approach to Christianity. Martin Luther was a vehement anti-Semite. He wrote a whole book actually called On the Jews and Their Lies. And he openly encouraged people to go after and be violent towards the community. So it's like a lot of the anti-Semitism comes from Christianity. That's where a lot of it comes from, and that's where most of the people who have been very adamantly against the Jewish community have been Christians. Typically, that's how it goes. And then, of course, now we get into the issues of the state of Israel. You know what I'm saying? Because after like medieval, you know, Martin Luther, we get into kind of more modern day wars and World War I, World War II, obviously the horrors of the Holocaust and things like that.
Mm-hmm.